First Chronicles, we see these 11 Gadites who come down to join him. These 11 Gadites, when they show up, the atmosphere changes. The people who are with them change. The circumstances change. And from the text that we've read here in 1 Chronicles 12, we see that these men were remarkable. They were able-bodied men. It said in the passage that they were mighty men of war. There was a physicality to them. They were marked out by it. They were capable. They were fit. They were prepared to be involved. They were prepared for action. They were able-bodied men. They were trained and disciplined. They were beyond proficient in shield and buckler. The fact that it mentions everyone used shield and buckler, but the fact that it mentions that they used shield and buckler means that they were skilled in the use of it. They were trained in military exercises and discipline. They commanded soldiers, as we learned from the passage. They commanded, some of them commanded hundreds of soldiers. Some of them commanded thousands of soldiers. These were leaders. They knew about war. They knew about conflict. They knew about trouble, and they knew how to handle it. They were agile. They were fleet. It said in the passage that they were swift as gazelles upon the mountains. They were not flying from the enemy, but in pursuit of them. They responded to the circumstances on the battlefield and were able to adapt, to change, to move, to respond to opportunities, to respond to threats. They were not stuck in their ways. They were not clumsy. They didn't just stand there with their sword and their spear and fight. They responded to the situation. It's important for us as people, as people of God, but especially as people, that we're prepared to adapt to situations. As much as we'd like to think that our lives are just going to all be nice and it's just going to be this, it's going to be this way forever, things change. Circumstances change. Situations change. It's important that we're adaptable. We can respond and change our plans and change the path that we're walking on to respond to those circumstances. We learn from the passage that they're brave and courageous. They were daring. They were willing to expose themselves to danger in order to achieve an objective and a goal. It said in the passage that they crossed the Jordan in its time of flood. They didn't wait for a convenient time. They didn't wait till the waters had receded, that the Jordan had overflowed its banks. It was the wrong time of year to cross. They knew that the thing had to be done, and they went. It needs to be done. Let's go do it. Let's move. Let's not wait around. Let's respond. Crossed the Jordan in times of flood when it was at its highest. That would have meant that they would be inspirational men. They would have inspired those who were around them to great courage and bravery also. I can remember being playing in an American football team, and I can remember one of the guys on the team, boy, he knew his business, and he wasn't afraid to take a hit or to give out a hit. And I can remember the rest of us feeling like, well, here, I better have another Wheatie next week, some more Wheaties next week and get in there. It inspires you when you're around people who are brave and courageous, who are willing to respond and act even when it's not convenient. Something about it. It draws us on. It draws us in. We've seen that in the world wars, didn't we? Second World War, soldiers was brave. His whole company then became braver because they realized that if he can do it, maybe I can do it. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can contribute. There's something about these men. We also see that these men were determined and steely. Their faces were like the faces of lions, it said. They put to flight their enemies that they encountered in the cause of God. They were determined. No matter what stood in their way, they were going to get the job done. They're not victims, they were not bystanders, but they were proactive, confident, and active in achieving their goals. We want to get over and we want to see David. We want to help him in what he's doing. We want to support him. They were dependable. They were reliable. They had that go-through spirit that would not quit. These were Gadites. The promise over the tribe is even though you get kicked and trampled, that you'll have victory at the end. That's what these men were like. They embodied it. They came along and they were like, let's go. I'm going to get kicked. I'm going to get bruised. I'm going to get hurt. Well, keep going because we'll win at the end. We'll triumph at the end. And they came to David after he spent whatever length of time in this cave with these people who had real issues. And then these 11 guys show up. talk about change the tone. Talk about change the perspective. Talk about change everyone in the place. Is it any wonder that the men who were with David, that they were eventually the ones that would become David's mighty men, and they would help to lead his armies? These Gadites arrived and they changed the things. People seen them and they were an example to them. And you know what? If we look at these stories, we look at these men and we think of them, and you know, you can leave it in history if you want to, but I'm going to look at these men and I'm going to think of them in terms of myself. Am I determined? Am I willing to do what's necessary for the cause of the Lord? Will I stand up? Will I sacrifice? Will I be the one who's brave and I'm going to be an example? Are we going to be the people that we're called to be? Are we going to walk in his purposes and his plans? Or are we going to lie down the first time we're kicked in the teeth?